Your picture is now ready.
Chuck E. Cheese's, have you heard? Real cool new games at Chuck's. New now, wow, that's the word. New now, wow, not just cool games, have you heard? Real cool new prizes at Chuck's. New now, wow.
What's the word?
Don't let it in one ear and out the other. Choose one cool new thing after another. Chuck E. Cheese's, real cool. New now, wow, place to be a kid.
Chuck E. Cheese's, known as the place where a kid can be a kid, has been a part of everyone's childhood, including me. This popular pizza chain with arcades and animatronics has spread all around the globe, from California to Texas to Florida to Illinois. But there's one location that I would like to talk about, and that place is Chesapeake, Virginia. Chesapeake is a location I've wanted to make a video on for the longest time. In fact, it was actually the very first CEC location I was recommended to do after I released the Louisville video, all the way back in 2021. Now, after 2 years, I'm finally covering it. So in this video, I will be going over the nearly 30-year history of the locations in Chesapeake, from the location everyone's familiar with, to the other location that is pretty underrated, to their unfortunate futures. This is the history of Chuck E. Cheese in Chesapeake, Virginia. So before I talk about Chuck E. Cheese's and Chesapeake, I want to quickly go over the history of each one. Chuck E. Cheese's was founded on May 17, 1977, and opened its first location in San Jose, California. It was created by Nolan Bushnell, who was also the co-founder of the video game company Atari. He wanted to make a place that families could hang out and play the latest arcade games, since before this arcades were seen as dangerous places due to violence. As for Chesapeake, Virginia's history, it's a little complex. Chesapeake, Virginia is actually a recent city, since it was established on January 2nd, 1963. It was originally an independent city created after the city of South Norfolk and Norfolk County merged. The name Chesapeake comes from the Native American tribe known as the Chesapeake people. They inhabited the area before it became a city. It currently has a population of 251,269 people as of 2021, making it the second largest city in the state of Virginia. Obviously a great place for a big fat pizza rat to expand to. However, surprisingly, Chuck E. Cheese never did have a Pizza Time theater in Chesapeake. There wasn't even a Showbiz Pizza either. This might have something to do with the nearby city of Norfolk having several locations already. But just 19 years after being founded, Chuck E. Cheese would finally set up shop in Chesapeake.
I like the skee-ball. I like the basketball. The rides. The games. The ball crawl. The pizza. And Chuck E. Cheese. Only one kid place has all of these.
Chuck E. Cheese's, where a kid can be a kid.
The Chuck E. Cheese's in Chesapeake, Virginia opened in December 1996, to the joy of locals everywhere. This location is known as the Sam's Circle location. This is because it's located near the Sam's Drive Street, as well as being near the Sam's Circle Shopping Center. Both are named after the Sam's Club located right across from CEC. It was originally opened as a franchise store. The company that franchised this location owned and operated a few other CECs, such as the Hampton, Virginia location. The exterior of this location featured red and yellow awnings and that classic Cool Chuck logo. There were also a few other Cool Chuck logos on different sides of the building. This design is known as the 1993 remodel. aka Phase 3. Unfortunately, there's not many photos from when Chesapeake was a Phase 3 store, but it pretty much featured all the standard things found in other Phase 3 stores. These include the artifact shelves, the wall planters, parody posters such as the record posters, magazine posters, and even more posters, like these character portraits and this poster. Of course, like any Chuck E. Cheese, they had a wide variety of games and rides. I'll talk more about some of these games and rides later, but since this is a Phase 3 store, they also feature the iconic Sky Tubes and the Toddler Zone. But even though I wasn't able to find much on the store as a whole, I was able to find a lot of information on a certain part of the store, and for that, we have to enter the showroom. But first, check out that cool showroom sign and the showroom walls. As you enter the room, have a seat in the old green and black Phase 3 booths, and enjoy the real entertainment. I'm of course talking about the animatronics. This animatronic stage is known as the 2 stage. This is because, as the name implies, it features 2 stages. The first stage to the left features Chuck E. Cheese himself, while the other much larger stage is for the other characters, Helen Henny, Mr. Munch, Jasper T. Jowls, and Pasquale. The stages are separated by a large TV that shows videos before, during, or after a show. Also, can't forget about that iconic wink above the stage. Now some of you Chuck E. Cheese fans and historians are probably wondering something. If this location opened in 1996, why did they receive a 2 stage, as opposed to the 1 stage, which was the current stage being produced by CEC at the time? Well, the answer to that is because this stage does not have Virginia origins. That's right, just like the former 2 stage at the Florence, Kentucky location, which if you want to know more about that location, check the description. This stage originally was at an older location before moving to Chesapeake. This specific stage was originally from the Merced, California location, which closed in 1995. After that location closed, the same franchisee who operated the Chesapeake location bought several 2-stage shows from different California locations, and one of those happened to end up in Chesapeake. This stage in particular is really cool since it was actually one of the prototype 2 stages, making it one of the first 2 stages ever built. You can tell it's a prototype stage because Chucky is standing on a red base, something that is not on normal 2 stages, and the fact that the stage uses props that are more commonly found on 3 stages, like the building backdrops. Just a few more things to mention about Chesapeake's 2-stage before moving on. When the location first opened, the Chucky bot had the classic derby hat and tuxedo. This also applied to the mascot costume of Chuck that was used at the location. The other characters on the stage are pretty unique compared to other 2-stage animatronics. Or at least they are now, not so much back then. Helen, for example, had her 90s mask, and actually kept it all the way through the stage's lifetime. Jasper was unique, since instead of normal jeans, he sported overalls. Also, I don't know if it's just aging, but I noticed the spots on his muzzle are not as noticeable as most Jasper Cyberamics. And finally, Pasquale had a unique drum front, that being a Pizza Time Theater Chucky front. Oh, and I also noticed how this stage kept the 3-stage TV design, even into the later years. And other than that, there's not much else to discuss about the Sam Circle Chuck E. Cheese location when it was Phase 3. It stayed virtually the same all throughout the 90s and into the 2000s. The only changes being made included games and rides being removed or added, and the Chucky animatronic ditching the tuxedo in favor of khaki shorts, and the Cool Chuck shirt. Interestingly, they kept the derby hat. The mascot suit also got the new at the time Avenger outfit, along with a Chucky head that features a different hat. Also, both heads are missing teeth for some reason. But for the next major update, we have to go to the early 2010s. So sometime between 2010 and 2011, the location would undergo another remodel. This time it was converted into a Phase 4 store. This remodel got rid of all the Phase 3 aspects like the artifact shelves and showroom walls, along with the green and black booths. Most of the posters and decor on the walls were removed, including the wall planters, as well as the balcony seating. The exterior saw a huge change. It appears that the entire building was repainted and the red awnings were replaced with purple ones. The front also saw the addition of the checkered backdrop and the new Avenger Chuck Thumbs Up logo. This logo was also seen on all other sides of the building. As for the inside, like I said earlier, most Phase 3 decor minus a few signs were removed and replaced by standard Phase 4 posters. Some walls were also painted purple and tables and booths were switched out for newer ones. One of the cooler new additions to this remodel are the inclusion of 5 new pieces of wall art, aka the Star Stage character portraits. In case you aren't familiar with the Star Stage, it was a stage tested at the old Montfort, Texas location. Unfortunately, it was never used elsewhere, but these character portraits were used with that stage, and they actually managed to be used at quite a few locations, Chesapeake included. The portraits include Chuck E. Cheese with a guitar, most likely foreshadowing Rockstar Chuck, Helen with a microphone, Munch with a keyboard and pizza, Jasper with a guitar, and Pasquale with drums and a pizza. I really love these portraits, and I wish they actually got used at more stores rather than just a few. But other than those, the sky tubes, animatronics, and some games and rides stayed. Oh, and the Chucky animatronic got the Avenger outfit. How could I forget about that? Now's the part of every Chuck E. Cheese history video where I like to go over some of the games and rides a location has to offer. These aren't in any particular order, and some of these games and rides aren't at the location anymore, but I still like to bring them up. Anyways, so here's some of the games and rides the Sam Circle Chesapeake location either had or currently have. Some of the games they had included Buster Bubbles, with that creepy squirrel thing, Chucky Duckies, Deal or No Deal, Doodle Jump, Wheel of Fortune, Fruit Ninja, that cool Chuck E. Cheese air hockey table, and Sonic Spinner. Oh, and how can we forget my favorite arcade game, Buzzy Buzzy Bee? Chesapeake was actually one of the few locations to keep the game, even after it was retired from most other Chuck E. Cheeses. As for rides, they had the Superman ride, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Stuart Little, Noah's Ark, and Bob the Builder. One notable ride to mention is this old school Chuck E. Cheese trolley car ride. I wonder if this was present when the location first opened, though sadly it was removed in the late 2010s. But if there's one ride I associated with Sam's Circle Chesapeake's location, it has to be the Chuck E. Cheese photo ride, but not just any standard Chuck E. Cheese car ride, the first edition version. Chesapeake was actually the very last location to have the first edition of the Chuck E. Cheese photo ride. You can tell it's the first one because Chucky is wearing the derby hat and red vest. Though towards the end of its run, it no longer took photos due to the paper needed for this ride being hard to find. On a side note, if you want to learn more about this epic kiddie ride, my pal Chatty Chucky made a video going over the history of this specific ride. It's a really great video. I highly recommend checking it out in the link in the description. By the mid-2010s, this is where we start to see a notable downfall. Well, with the animatronics, that is. By 2015, the stage was in terrible condition. The cosmetics were nasty and messy, and the flow controls were messed up. Thankfully, around 2018 or 2019, the stage got a minor restoration, which fixed a few problems with the stage. Over time, Chesapeake's 2 stage became very beloved by the Chuck E. Cheese community, mostly due to its charm, and differences from most CEC stages, like how it was the last Prototype 2 stage, or how Chucky still had the Avenger costume and hat despite Rockstar Chuck being introduced to the restaurants. There was just some things about it that people loved. The last major update to the store during the Phase 4 era was that on December 13th, 2019, the location was bought by Chuck E. Cheese Corporate after being a franchise location for 23 years. They also bought all the other locations owned by the same franchisee, such as the Hampton, Virginia location and the next location I'll be discussing. Which, speaking of that location, I think this is a good place to pause the history of the Sam Circle Chuck E. Cheese. Let's go back a few years. or maybe 15 years, to when Chuck E. Cheese decided to set up shop in Chesapeake yet again.
Introducing a tasty new way to play with your food. Chuck E. Cheese's new Kids Fun Meals. You can choose your very own pizza with your favorite topping.
Oh yeah!
Or a hot dog with fries. Plus your favorite drink. And 4 free tokens.
Oh yeah!
So you even get to choose your favorite fun. Oh yeah! Chuck E. Cheese's new Kids Fun Meals. Yours for $3.49. Very tasty.
In early 2004, somewhere between February and March, a second Chuck E. Cheese location opened in Chesapeake, Virginia. This time, the location was located on Peak Trail and located next to the Hampton Inn Hotel. This new location was about 13,375 square feet, making it actually larger than the Sam's Circle location. It was also owned and operated by the same franchise owner as the Sam's Circle location. Just like the Sam's Circle location, the Peak Trail location opened as a Phase 3 store. The exterior was very different from the other location, since it had multiple yellow shirt Cool Chuck signs with the red awnings. It also featured brick columns and the whole building itself was tan. Moving on to the interior, when walking in, it immediately looks like you time traveled back to the late 90s Chuck E. Cheese. It looked so retro, even down to the dim lighting and old school TVs hanging from the ceiling. The menu even had a unique Chucky with a yellow hat on it. As for what they had to offer, they pretty much had all the same decor that Sam's Circle had when it was Phase 3. These include the stars and sports equipment on the walls, the magazine posters, this cool film reel up top, and many posters, such as this Elvis poster, this poster that Sam's Circle had, the Chuck E. Cheese Men in Black poster, and 7 must-see TV posters in the showroom. Best of all was the wall planters, as the Peak Trail location was actually the very last location to have wall planters. They lasted all the way up until 2022. Moving on into the game room, again it's like most other Chuck E. Cheese locations. They had the Sky Tubes as well as the Toddler Zone. And I believe Peak Trail was one of the last locations to have a proper toddler zone, with the colorful gates and cute little play place. It unfortunately got removed a few years ago. As for the games and rides, they had a lot of the same stuff as Sam's Circle. Some of these games include Nicktoons Racing, this Jurassic Park arcade game, this Kung Fu Panda game, a Ghostbusters game, Sonic Spinner, and of course Buzzy Buzzy Bee. Some rides include the Clifford ride, the Stuart Little car, this cool carousel ride, the Superman ride, this Barney the Dinosaur tractor ride, and a cool Chuck variant of the Chucky car ride. However, it would later be replaced by a Rockstar version. It's funny how the two Chesapeake locations had the exact same rides and games. I know they were both owned and operated by the same franchisee, but still, it's quite interesting. I bet the two locations swapped games and rides back and forth when the locations got new games and had to get rid of others. But one thing about the Peak Trail location that was different than the other location was the animatronic stage. Instead of having a 2-stage, or any stage that featured all 5 characters, it instead was a Studio C Beta stage. The Studio C Beta was first introduced in 2000, and was the 3rd stage to use the Studio C name. It featured a blue screen with an interactive camera, 3 TVs playing show tapes and cartoons, and of course a stage featuring a 16-movement Chuck E. Cheese bot created by the Garner Holt Company. Originally, when the stage was first introduced, Chucky wore a red cap, blue shirt, and khakis. Peak Trail's Chucky bot kept this look throughout its entire existence. And surprisingly, that's it. That's all this location has to offer when it was a Phase 3 store. This store remained virtually unchanged from when it first opened, making it look yet again like you just went back in time. The only changes made throughout the 2000s and 2010s were very minor, like the removal of certain games and rides and getting new ones. The stage also saw a few changes. In 2005, the curtains on the stage were disabled. Sometime in the 2010s, the blue screen and the camera were removed, and in 2013 Chucky's hat was removed due to Rockstar Chuck. The Sky Tubes would be removed in the late 2010s, and on December 13, 2019 the location was bought by corporate along with the other Chesapeake location. But now we jump forward to 2022, and this is where things get pretty sad for both Chesapeake locations. Something happened. Something truly upsetting. Something that, oh, what am I doing? You already know what I'm talking about.
Feel that? It's that next level, all-you-can-play games. Ticket Blaster Master and prizes after. Have your cake and pizza too? Best birthday ever feeling. Only at Chuck E. Cheese.
In the summer of 2022, Chesapeake, Virginia would be hit by something every Chuck E. Cheese location fears. That's of course the abomination known as Chuck E. Cheese 2.0. Peak Trail's location would be the first victim of 2.0, as the remodel began in July 2022. Something interesting that happened was towards the beginning of the remodel, the location actually lost power, so the location temporarily closed, but the remodel continued, with construction workers working in the darkness. The remodel lasted for a few months until it was completed in October 2022. The exterior didn't see too much change. Really, the only changes made were to the signage. The main part where the logo was is now green, with that crappy Microsoft Paint No Eyebrows Chucky logo. The sides of the logo now have these brown circular designs with a very small Chuck E. Cheese lettering on both sides. The restaurant's name was changed from Chuck E. Cheese's to just Chuck E. Cheese. As for the interior, this is where the main changes took place. All of the old store art was trashed and replaced with new Subway-looking artwork. Some of the older games were thrown out and new games were added. But they actually did keep most of the older games, which is one of the only positive things I can say about this particular remodel. The worst part about the remodel was of course the change 2.0 is best known for. They removed the animatronics. The Studio C beta would officially be removed. As for what happened to the Chucky bot, well, he and the rest of the stage were unfortunately destroyed, with nothing saved as to my knowledge. So you're probably wondering what replaced the animatronic. Well, it was of course a crappy dance floor and large screen TV, and the space the show was now has portraits of the characters, Helen, Chuck, Pasquale, Jasper, and Munch in that order. Peak Trails 2.0 remodel was the newer 2021 version. This dance floor is notable for being very small and essentially just being a large TV on the floor. It's also known for having one large TV in the back where the stage once was, instead of having TVs hanging from the ceiling like in older remodels, though they do have them in the game room. The grand opening of the newly remodeled Chuck E. Cheese's on Peak Trail in Chesapeake, Virginia was either on October 7th or 8th, 2022. There was a small dance party to celebrate the opening with Chuck E. Cheese himself in attendance, but not only was Chuck there, but also Helen Henny was too. Now I don't think Peak Trail owns this costume, I think it was just rented for this event. While most Chesapeake residents were happy that Chuck E. Cheese was finally open again with a new look, others were mad simply because it's a 2.0, and the fact that it was a location many people loved and was super nostalgic and yet again felt like going back in time, but now it just looks so bland and corporate. But if people didn't like Peak Trail getting 2.0, then I wonder how they felt when Sam's Circle was remodeling just a year later. After Peak Trail remodeled, that left Sam's Circle the last location in the city with animatronics, but it too was a shell of its former self. First, the Sky Tubes would be removed sometime in the 2020s due to COVID-19 concerns. Then the last public Red Vest Chucky photo ride would be removed and replaced with a Rockstar version. But both of those are somewhat minor compared to what was going on with the animatronics. By 2022, the stage started to fall into disrepair again. Chucky's body turned broke and had a few air leaks. Munch had no teeth and his body would be stuck to the right. Pasquale's mustache was attached to one of his arms via a string, and his head turn had an air leak, and most of the backdrop lights and floodlights were broken. Helen and Jasper were the only ones in decent condition. So with things getting bad for the location, they decided, or were forced, to remodel into a 2.0 store, beginning on June 25th, 2023. The remodel lasted for several months, with the animatronics being removed on July 11th, 2023. As for what happened to the animatronics and stage, it's kinda unknown. One source claims they were destroyed, another said they were sent to another location for spare parts, and yet another says the stage was sent back to corporate to be used in a future probably never gonna happen Chuck E. Cheese museum. So yeah, it's all over the place. As for the remodel itself, it's just the same as the other location. Same exterior, same interior, same dance floor setup, and the same Subway-inspired wall art and Microsoft Paint Chucky logo. The only difference between this and Peak Trail is the character portraits on the video wall are in a different order. Sam Circle's portrait order goes Pasquale, Helen, Chucky, Munch, and while you can't really see him, Jasper is on the wall beside Munch. Man, why is Jasper always getting the short end of the stick with 2.0? This is definitely one of the weakest and probably laziest 2.0 remodels I've ever seen. Mostly because of how awful this video wall looks. Like seriously, look at this huge gap where the video wall is. It just looks so bad. At least for me. Anyways, the grand opening was held on September 7th, 2023, with both Chucky and Helen once again having a dance party. And that brings us to today. As of September 2023, both Chuck E. Cheese's locations in Chesapeake, Virginia are alive and somewhat surviving despite being 2.0s. Sam's Circle currently has a 3.9 star rating on Google, while Peak Trail has a 4.0 star rating, so not the worst but also not the best. If you would like to visit either one of these locations, then Sam's Circle's address is 1528 Sam's Circle, Chesapeake, Virginia, 23320, while Peak Trail's address is 4400 Peak Trail, Chesapeake, Virginia, 23321. Sam's Circle is located near a shopping center with a Walmart and Sam's Club, while Peak Trail is located near a hotel. And there you have it, the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Chesapeake, Virginia. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's nice to do more Chuck E. Cheese location histories. I was especially happy to do this one since it was the first location suggested to me to do a video on. Hopefully whoever suggested it enjoys this episode. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below which location is your favorite, or if you have any memories from visiting any of these locations. Also, feel free to correct some of the mistakes I made regarding these locations, or anything that I missed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the rest of the History of Series Season 3. Bye-bye!
Alright now, here we go! Woo! Got one controller to the video game. My time is over now, it's your turn to play. My fingers need a little rest anyway, 'cause taking turns is only making this a better day. I've got some ice cream, grab you a spoon. It tastes so good I wanna share it with you. That's just a thing that friends ought to do, 'cause being one is only half as good as being two. Don't you wanna share and treat each other fair? 'Cause nothing else compares when you show how much you care. Don't you wanna share? Hey, don't you wanna share? You've got some chores, so I'm pitching in. It's so much faster with the help of a friend. Let's share the work and the time that we spent before we know it's all over. you want to share and treat each other fair? 'Cause nothing else compares when you show how much you care. Don't you want to share and treat each other fair? 'Cause nothing else compares when you show how much you care. Don't you want to share with me? I'll share with you anything you need. I'll try to do, 'cause that's what friends are for. Yeah, that's what friends are for. Oh, that's what friends are for. Believe me, it's true. It's true. Don't you want to share and treat each other fair? 'Cause nothing